Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining our Understanding DevSecOps event with our fellow Glenn Wilson. So today we're going to introduce you to the Devsec Ops Academy and to our speakers. And then we're going to dive deep into the world of DevOps and DevSecOps to help you get started understanding DevSecOps. And then we're going to take you on a quick walkthrough of our Devsec Ops Academy platform, as you will be doing the Devsec Ops course after this kickoff. And we'll show you just how to quickly navigate the platform and the most important aspects of our hands-on labs. And then we'll have a wrap up. So we will have a chance to ask questions. So if any questions pop up into your mind as we are doing the presentation, please do add them in the chat box, and then we'll try to answer as many as possible when we have a chance for questions. Right, so who are we? So today's event is presented by the Devsec Ops Academy. Here at the Devsec Ops Academy, our aim is to make you hands-on in secure DevOps as quickly and effectively as possible. Many of us don't have time to take a 10 or 20-hour course, but we still want to stay in touch with the latest trends in DevSecOps, and maybe we want to learn about new areas and new tools that are on the market. So that's why we've created short, concise courses to fit your busy agenda. Most of our courses you can finish in 3 or 4 hours, as we try to give you the minimum amounts of theory that you need to get started applying the concepts and tools in our browser-based hands-on labs. But you'll find more out about this for yourself in our course. And these courses are created by experts from all over the world, not only by us here in-house at the Devsec Ops Academy, but we also have collaborations with security experts from all over, and you'll meet one of them today because we're quite excited to have one of our experts that have created the Understanding DevSecOps course right with us at our event today. This is Glenn Wilson. So we would really like to welcome Glenn with us today, and we'd also like to ask him to introduce himself.
Thank you, Inge. My name is Glenn Wilson. I am a DevOps and Agile security consultant and trainer, and author of a book that was published last year on DevSecOps. I think Inge's giving a demonstration of that book right now. Thank you, Inge. I also co-host a DevOps London gathering, which is a meetup that occurs every month. We've just celebrated our 4th anniversary, and it's a meetup where we discuss lots of topics around DevSecOps. And I'm also co-host of a DevSecOps Overflow podcast, which is a spin-off from the DevSecOps London gathering, where we talk to individuals about that month's event and just really draw out some of the more interesting elements from that particular topic. So that's called DevSecOps Overflow podcast. So that's me. That is who I am.
Great. Thanks so much, Glenn. Right. And my name is Inge. So I'm a DevSecOps advocate here at the Devsec Ops Academy, and I help to create some of the courses and collaborate with our fellows. So the event today doesn't just start and end with this kickoff. We're going to give you, as we previously mentioned, we're going to give you access to the Understanding DevSecOps course right after this kickoff. So you don't have access right now. And then you'll be given 2 weeks to complete the course. So your access will end on the 14th of October. And if you do the hands-on lab, then you will get a practitioner certificate that certifies that you have completed the Understanding DevSecOps course. And of course, we want as many people as possible to finish this course. So we do have live support available from 9 to 5 Central European time on weekdays. So that's Monday to Friday. You'll see when you're doing the course, there will be a little chat with us box on the right-hand side. And if you click that, then you'll be connected to our chatbots that our chatbot has a number of frequently asked questions. But if your question is not amongst these FAQs, then you'll be automatically connected to our live support. But if this is outside of our live support hours, then you can just leave your email and your question, and we'll get back to you the next weekday. And of course, we'd also like your feedback. You'll see in the hands-on lab, there will be an opportunity to provide your feedback in the survey. We're trying to improve your learning experience as much as possible, so we need your feedback to do that. Right, so today Glenn is going to be taking you on a journey through time, starting with manufacturing in the 20th century, all the way up to DevSecOps as it is today. Then at the end of the session, you will get access to his course. And here you will get the chance to study and apply his DevSecOps principles to secure your very own application in the hands-on lab. So with that, I would like to give the floor to Glenn. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Inge. If you'd like to stop sharing, and I'll share my screen. So I'm hoping everyone can see my screen. Inge, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
I think it's still black. Could you just try resharing it again? Oh, now it is. Now it's perfect. Okay.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Today, as Inge said, I'm going to take you on a journey and really try to explain why we do DevSecOps, or why we do DevOps, and why we have to secure DevOps. That means it is a journey from the very basics of where we came from. I am a bit of a historian myself, and have loved studying this stuff. So I'm just going to share with you some of my background. And it is a journey from the early 20th century right up to the modern day. So I'm just going to start from the very origins of manufacturing. Manufacturing many years ago, at the beginning of the, or even at the end of the 19th century and at the turn of the 20th century, manufacturing was very ad hoc. There was loads of artisans, lots of people with skills, and they developed items that they then developed. But then this meant that individuals had to develop something on their own and produce that on their own. And it wasn't mass production. Everything was done bespoke and for an individual. And then along came these two guys. These are Frederick Taylor, who looked at the way that people could manufacture stuff and turn it into a more holistic production line. So the idea then is that you bring these artisans and even unskilled laborers from the farming community, bearing in mind that farming is one of the biggest laborers during the 19th century, and basically said, if I teach you this individual skill, you can be part of a large production line. So if I teach you how to create a screw, for example, you can create a screw that we use to bolt all these other pieces together that are also made by other people. And it meant that these guys would create whole systems. And that's called systems management. Henry Ford took this to another level. He decided to make cars. The Model T Ford is a great example of this, where he was able to make a single type of car, the Model T Ford, by basically bringing unskilled people in to make very specific components. And then the whole was put together into a car. And his famous saying, of course, was that you could have any color of car you like, as long as it's black. And I think that highlighted one of the challenges of the way that, that this manufacturing process worked, is that it was very inflexible, wasn't very agile. In the terms of software development and project management, this translated into waterfall. And we basically meet guys like Winston Royce, who was the first person really to put together the waterfall process. And he used tools that were developed by Henry Gantt to create the Gantt chart so that you could then monitor how your project was progressing. And one of the problems with this is that you need to know up front how you did your software delivery or whatever we used working on. Everything had to be known at the start. So you created your idea, and then you designed, developed, tested, and deployed. And everything had to be done in that sequence. And it took long periods of time. If your customer decided at the end of that they changed their mind, you would have wasted a whole length of time doing your development and testing and so forth for something the customer didn't really want. So there were flaws in that way of working, obviously. We also started to see different ways of working. Rather than looking at systems management, we started looking at systems thinking. And systems thinking was more about how can we as individuals influence the way that this whole product comes together. And the influence behind a lot of this thinking were people like Russell Ackoff, Peter Drucker, Edward Demmer. These are the ones that that you see in a slide now. But there were others as well, like Ludwig von Bertalanffy. There were many others that came up with these ideas of systems thinking. And the idea is that you have an appreciation for that system. And just thinking about going back to that manufacturer who, that unskilled laborer who said, you know, what do you do for a living? He would have said, I make screws in the Taylor way. But actually, under this way of working or this way of thinking, if you said to somebody, what do you do for a living? They say, we make cars, or we make tools, or we make whatever it is that you're making. So the whole idea is that you became part of a system and you understood where you stood in the system. And this was applied most famously by the Toyota production systems. Much has been written about this. And the whole idea of this is that it was much more agile. Workers were able to experiment, try different ways of doing stuff, and start to develop better quality products, better product cars or better quality cars. And they weren't being led by a manager. They were leading themselves and developing themselves. And it became quite famous that Toyota, after the Second World War, was in a very bad state. By the early 1950s, they were making huge dents in the car manufacturing market, especially in the USA. And the people that influenced this, here you see Taiki Ono, and you also see Shigeo Shingo. These are the guys that influenced this way of working. So again, how does this translate into software development? Well, we saw people start to look at agile ways of doing stuff. The Agile Manifesto was written. It was written in the 2001, I believe, and its highest priority was to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery. So the whole idea is, rather than waiting to deliver something at the end of your design, development, and testing, you developed and tested and delivered in very short periods of time, and gave the customer the opportunity to adjust very quickly what they wanted. And that's why it's called Agile. So it was based on 4 key pillars: individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following plan. And although there's values in those the items that they're over, they put greater value on the likes of individuals' interactions, working software, customer collaboration, and responding to change. So this is very different from the waterfall process. And many software developers applied, signed the manifesto, and some of those went on to influence what became known as DevOps. In fact, I'll say that DevOps was influenced by the Agile. In fact, the DevOps people here, you see Jin Kim, Patrick Dubois, Jez Humble, and John Willis. They were very much influenced by the likes of Deming from the systems thinking approach, or Russell Ackoff, as well as the Agile Manifesto. And they came up with this whole concept of DevOps being driven by developers, but working constantly towards a systems approach to doing stuff in software. So rather than doing the waterfall approach and looking at Agile, we looked at the whole systems development. So the DevOps Handbook, which you see here, a picture of this, explains the 3 ways of DevOps, which I'm going to explain in a short while. But they were very clear about what DevOps is. And I'm just going to pause there. We often talk about DevOps being high performing. And I would very much like to know where you as an audience see yourself right now. So we've got a little poll set up, and it is a controversial poll, I'll give you that. So, so Inge, if you want to just show that poll. So do you consider your organization to be a high performing and secure? Oh, we're getting some really good results coming through here. This is really interesting. Okay, I think we settled down on the numbers there now. If giving another couple of more seconds to vote. Okay. Oh, you're still voting? The numbers are still going up. Okay, I'm going to end the poll right there, I think. So that's really interesting. So about a fifth of you say yes, you're fully committed to DevSecOps. That's great. And it's also good to see that half of you are looking at moving towards implementing DevSecOps as a system. So moving towards being a high-performing and secure team. Obviously, those ones that said that they prefer not to say, we don't know what you are, there's a very small group there that said that they're not committed to DevSecOps at all. And those that are not committed to DevSecOps at all, I hope after looking at this presentation, you might reconsider, because I think moving towards a high-performing organization is a good way to think about it. So I'm going to stop sharing that poll result now. So thank you very much for that. Okay. So what is automation? What DevOps isn't? Well, DevOps isn't automation. A singular focus on automation will not deliver a successful DevOps practice. This was stated in the 2021 State of DevOps report, which is produced by Puppet every year. It was produced by a guy called Nigel Kirsten, who explains this very well. Automation is not the answer. It's not cloud. Cloud forms part of it, yes, but merely using the cloud does not make DevOps. Obviously, the more evolved organizations that use the cloud better are considered to be DevOps groups, but certainly doing cloud does not make you DevOps. And DevOps isn't a job title. This is quite a controversial statement, but my personal opinion is that DevOps is not a jobs title. It is a function of what everyone does and within the organization. And it's really about these 5 ideals, locality and simplicity, focus, flow, and joy, improvement of daily work, psychological safety, and customer focus. That's what DevOps is. It's not just a job title. It's not cloud. It's not automation. So just bear with me. So in the book, the DevOps Handbook, Gene Kim and his colleagues describe 3 ways of working. And this goes back to the systems thinking approach that we talked about, like the likes of Deming and Russell Aikoff. So the idea is that you think of your system as a whole. You need to amplify those feedback loops. So giving really quick feedback, no matter where you are in the system, in order that adjustments can be made very quickly. And it's also about a process of continual learning, continual experimentation, and being able to improve your knowledge, improve your product, and improve everything about your organization as you go through the journey. And this is what DevOps really stands for. So I've talked a lot about DevOps. What I haven't talked about is DevSecOps. And security plays a major part of the way we do DevOps. And why is that? Well, this graph, which I've managed to get this from the internet, from the SIS study, it goes to show that the number of breaches up to the year 2018 started to grow exponentially. And I know that from 2019 through to 2020, this has not changed. In fact, it's growing even worse every year. It's growing and growing and growing, the number of breaches that we're seeing. And so we need to make sure that we are fully aware of the security requirements in what we're doing. And that's where we come to DevSecOps. DevSecOps is what influences the way that we do security and DevOps. And I've produced a book that describes how we do this. And my book is available on Amazon. You'll see that that's the logo there, the DevSecOps logo. But please check it out. It's I think it's only $2.99 as a Kindle version. So please do check it out, and it's worth reading. I created a 3-layered approach to how we apply DevSecOps. And I started with the whole idea that is security education first. Knowledge is everything. I then talked about how it's important to address the quality within what you're doing. So you must improve the quality of what you're delivering. So applying that knowledge to improve what you're delivering. And then the third item is automation, is security automation. Is about understanding where your bottlenecks are to try and break down some of those security barriers that we have. So security automation isn't just necessarily running SAST or DAST or IS tools. What security automation means is automating your interface with the way you work with the security teams, and vice versa. So what DevSecOps isn't? So we said what DevOps isn't. So what's DevSecOps isn't? Well, look at all these tools. These are all automation tools that we see. This is from the Cyberscape. This was taken only just a few days ago. This is being updated regularly. It's not that. DevSecOps isn't about throwing tools at your solution. DevSecOps isn't about taking your developers, your operations, and bringing in a security expert and working in the DevSecOps way. That's not what DevOps and DevSecOps is. So it's not about bringing security individuals into a DevOps environment. This looks familiar, yeah, to if you do DevOps, the famous DevOps loop. This is actually a pipeline. It's not really DevOps. There's nowhere where I've seen this described as being DevOps apart from in marketing material. And then they say, well, DevSecOps is throwing security at this pipeline. Again, that's not what DevSecOps is. So what is DevOps, DevSecOps? Well, it's cultural. It's creating an environment where everyone is involved in delivering secure solutions. Not just the engineers, not just the operations guy, but everybody within the organization is totally focused on delivering secure solutions of high quality to their customers. It's about producing locality and simplicity. So what I mean by that is security needs to be local to the individuals that are working on the delivery. So it means creating interfaces into the security teams, into the security tooling that you use. You don't want to pass something over to a security team who a few weeks later comes back with a result. What you really want is to have that almost like a consuming type of interface. It also means that you have to have purposeful collaboration. What I mean by purposeful collaboration is the security guys need to come to a delivery team or a development team and help them overcome a specific problem to actually deliver that particular feature or that new product or whatever it is that you're working on in a secure way. Not just blanket, oh, you do security this way and just leave you to it, but actually collaborating with you and making it the focus to deliver secure systems. It's about focus, flow, and joy. So this is about the collaboration you're having with security. There's nothing we hate more than having security say to us, no, you can't do that. No, you can't. You can't run that particular tool. You can't you can't use that container. You can't deploy that piece of code to production until you've done this test. Well, rather than saying no, security needs to make it enjoyable. We need to create the idea that everybody in the whole system that we just talked about is working towards security in a good, fun way. It's about creating collaboration. It's about creating interfaces. And it's about facilitating the requirements of the engineers through security. And that's how we do it. And that creates much more empathy within the whole organization towards doing security. You can focus on what you're delivering. It improves the flow. And of course, if we're all doing that, we're all happy in what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And improving the daily work as well, paying down technical debt. Security debt costs money. So we need to make sure that we can reduce that. And it's not just the cost of being fined or whatever. It's the cost of being, losing customers, the unknowns. How many customers move on because they don't think your system's secure, or they think that another company is doing this bit in a better secure way, in a more secure way. So by paying down your security, you increase your performance of your systems. And psychological safety. This is the fourth ideal of DevSecOps or DevOps. And the whole idea is you want to remove that fear of doing security wrong. You'd want to remove that fear of people pointing the finger at you when you've done something that you shouldn't have done. We need to learn from those mistakes. We need to get better at what we do. And that means security needs to help us do that and help us solve problems. We need to be able to talk about those problems openly with security and not feel that we're being blamed for making mistakes. We need to encourage open discussions all the time about how we can improve security, not just for the sake of it, but actually make sure that we all understand what we need to do, individuals, to improve the security of the organization. That could be anything. It could be anything from making sure we don't click on links within emails that then gives some hacker access to the Git repository, for example. There's lots of stuff that we need to think about. And then we have customer focus. Now, I've got another little poll here. I've trouble when I think about customer to think who the customer is. I really would like to understand where people feel that who their customer is. So I've got a little poll, which Inge has just brought up on the screen now. Who is your customer? Wow, there's some interesting results coming through here. I'll be sharing this in a second. Still got a few more coming in. Oh, we've a much better response than the first question. You're all warming into this now. This is great. Okay, so I think the numbers are slowing down there. Yeah, I think they stopped. Right. So I'm going to publish that. So there you go. As you can see, the vast majority of those who voted said that your customer is those who pay for your products and services, and those who consume the output of your activities. Now, this is interesting because this is the challenge I have. I think both of those are right, but one's more right than the other. If I'm producing something, my consumer should be my customer. So some people here talked about their manager being your customer. I disagree with that. And I also disagree that your team is your customer, but I'd be interested to hear if anyone puts in the chat why they think that is the case. And also your regulators. My concern here about people thinking that regulators are, and there's no concern about individuals who've answered this question, but it's a general comment, is that your regulators are there to make sure you're compliant. And compliance doesn't necessarily mean that you're secure. And I have seen situations such as SolarWinds that were, I think in October 2020, declared that they were 27001 compliant, therefore they were very secure. They met certain other regulatory requirements in terms of security. It didn't stop them having one of the biggest hacks that caused one of the biggest supply chain hacks in history. So compliance is not necessarily who your customer is. But certainly your paying customers, yeah, definitely your customers. But I think your customers are also those that you are consuming the output of what you do. So whether you're in a supply chain within your organization, if you're developing something, or you're responsible for example, the build pipeline, your customer could be the engineers. If you're responsible for developing software, your customers could be those that are involved in the testing part of that process, or it could be that your customer is the person who has to validate what you've delivered to move on to the next person to make sure they're secure. So when I talk about customer focus and DevSecOps, what I'm really trying to say here is that when you develop something, make sure that when you're delivering something, I should say, not just necessarily developing something, but when you're delivering something, whoever you're delivering that to should feel that you have secured what it is that you're delivering. We shouldn't be thinking about delivering to the final paying customer and somewhere along the line, someone will make sure it's all secure. Your job really is to make sure that the component, the bit that you're doing, the bit that you're delivering is secure for your next customer along the line. You don't really want to be passing on vulnerabilities to your next customer. Likewise, you don't want to be passing vulnerabilities onto your final customer, the paying customer. So that's the challenge that I struggle with, and I hope I've been able to describe that okay. But yeah. So that's what my feeling of DevSecOps is. What I would like to talk about, actually, oops, I've just lost my slides. There you go. Is my book. So I talked about the 5 ways of DevOps and the 5 ways of DevSecOps. So how do we actually apply this? And my book goes on to describe some of this ways of working. So I believe that we need to start with a foundation of knowledge, understanding security, having that education, being able to grasp that information about security when we need it, and having that collective knowledge about security as well. So it's not just about an individual having security knowledge, it's about everybody understanding the role of security and what we're doing. So we work in a knowledge industry. We talked about manufacturing earlier, building cars. Prior to that was farming. We've shifted from farming to manufacturing, and now we've shifted into a knowledge and service-based industry. And you think about it, if you was a farmer, you would have your tools, you'd know how to do your land, you'll know how to make sure you can grow crops, certainly to feed your family and maybe those immediate around you, maybe your village or whatever. If you're manufacturing cars, you need to have understanding of how you do something, how you build whatever it is you're building within that car. Whether you're creating a screw or building an engine, you need to have knowledge of that. But also we need to understand the quality of that. Going back to the farmer, they need to produce good quality products, good quality produce, whether it be farm animals, it could be eggs, it could be anything that they're producing, crops. It needs to be of good quality, because people aren't going to come and eat rubbish. Exactly the same as cars. If you're going to be developing cars, you're going to develop good quality cars. We'll joke about the way that some cars in some countries were the laughing stock, yet the quality cars are the ones that we see more regularly on the road. And quite often we talk about, the quality of the car that we have. We very rarely talk about the quality of the software we produce, the quality of the products we deliver. And when I talk about quality, security is a subset of quality. So therefore, you need to make sure that your products are secure. And that's the part of the quality you're looking at. So they need to learn how to make things secure, because if you don't, you're not really delivering to the customer what they really want. So you need to build security then into the foundations of everything what you do. You need to apply good coding standards, good coding practices. You need to look at the way your architecture works and try to improve the way you do your architecture to limit the blast area of any security vulnerabilities. And finally, you need to create a layer of security automation. You need to understand, you need to validate the understanding of what you've developed. You know, how you test the security knowledge and the quality of what you delivered. You need to be able to test that, but you need to be able to test it in a way that doesn't impact the way that we deliver as well. So we can continuously improve security through that automation process. And the actual lab that I've produced describes a way of doing this in a very DevOps way. So that's my talk today about understanding DevSecOps. I hope it has been interesting to you, and I would appreciate any of your feedback. So I do have an opportunity for you to ask any questions. So if there's any questions in the chat window, Inge, please.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Glenn. If you do have any questions, please add them to the chat window right now. We currently don't have any questions. We can also unmute you if you'd like to ask a question live.
And also, if you've got questions that perhaps you want to ask me, I am on LinkedIn. I didn't actually give my details here, but I am on LinkedIn. So you can catch me through there. If you've got any questions you want to ask after this event, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions.
So it seems like we have
question. Can you ask a question verbally, if you don't mind? Can I speak, right?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I can type as well. If you, it's not good to for. I can, if you say I can type. Otherwise, I can talk. No worries.
We can hear you. We can hear if you want to carry on talking.
Okay, thank you so much. So this, it's thank you so much. Thank you so much for this session. It is great session. It is great, and I learned a lot. In just few of your words, it is great. It is, we all agree, basically we are cybersecurity services provider, and DevSecOps, we recently started DevSecOps. And I know this is something, it is not the job of tool, and I would say the job of something like automation, and it is a cultural change, yes. But again, when I had a couple of meetings with many customers in terms of DevOps and DevSecOps, most of the time the customer asks what tools you are using, what tools you have export on. So again, the people ask, whenever we talk about the DevSecOps, they don't understand the cultural change. They basically again speak about tools chain and methodology and type. So what is your intake regarding this? Like how we answer to what would be the exact answer to the customer that what is actually DevSecOps? It is only the cultural change, or we should like automate the whole security, put the security in whole DevOps operation in terms of automation, in terms of agile and all these things.
Yeah. So my answer to a client who had asked that, or customer who asked that question, is that DevSecOps is about improving the quality, the security, and the performance of the products that we're delivering to the customer. It's not about individual components. You know, if you're buying a car, would you go to the car manufacturer and say, you know, how do you build the engine? How do you test the engine? You don't. You just know that that's a quality engine because of the performance of that engine or the performance of the car. And I'd be very concerned if customers want to know the details of how you do security. You know, it's I think over the last couple of years, we've seen a little bit of misconception about what DevSecOps and DevOps means, and your tooling is part of it. Yeah, definitely, that we do require to use tools, but it's not, as I said in the presentation, it isn't what DevSecOps and DevOps is. It's not about automation. Automation does play an important part of it. Yes, it does, but it's not how you define DevOps. And I think you need to answer your clients or customers in the way that says we're actually, our goal here is to improve the quality and security and the performance of the products that we're delivering to you. And the only way you can really validate that is by improving the quality, the security, and the performance of the products you're producing. And I think that becomes its own evidence.
Thank you. Great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, thanks for that question. I received a direct message from one of our participants that asked, Glenn, what is the best way to go about, implementing DevSecOps if you're a beginner?
I would say start small. Don't try to boil the ocean. What I mean by that is don't try and change. I mean, it is a cultural thing, DevSecOps, but you're not going to change your organization in one foul swoop. So don't try to do that. But what you can do is you can start applying some of the principles of DevOps and DevSecOps as part of your, the small area that you're working in. It could even just be the way you do your own stuff. So for example, what I describe is in the course and also in my book is about just taking small little bites at the way you do stuff. So, like for example, how do you use your tools? How do you use automation tools? Rather than just scanning everything, coming up with loads of vulnerabilities, that's not going to solve the problem. But if you use your tools to say, right, I want to find out today whether injection is a major issue within my code, I'm going to run the tools to find out where the injection problems are in my code. And then I'm going to address those problems. I'm going to ask security guys to come and help me fix that problem and understand that problem. So that's your education. And then you apply that particular skill to, or that knowledge to improve the software, not just where you find that vulnerability in your software, but think about where else that could be a problem and start to build that out. And then run your test again, your tools to validate that you actually understand that you're fixing that problem, and to monitor that that problem doesn't come back, or if it does come back, you can identify it really quickly and fix it really quickly. That's really a DevSecOps way of work, or DevOps way of working, but applying security to what you're doing. So I think we get very hung up. This is the reason why it's not just about automation. We get very hung up on running our automated security testing across a whole range of our products and seeing lists of thousands and thousands of issues, and we don't even know where to start. Well, that is not conducive to DevOps or DevSecOps. So start small, look at each problem, start to learn as you go along. So, amplify your feedback loops. How quickly can we resolve this single problem that we've identified? How quickly can we then test it? And then how quickly can we move on to the next thing that we want to learn? So the continual learning loops that you see. So that's how I'd suggest you do DevSecOps.
Great, thanks, Glenn. We actually have quite a number of questions, but
Wow.
I think we only have time to answer one or two more.
We have Sanjay who's raised his hand, so
okay.
Should we ask Sanjay to ask his question?
Hey, hi, Glenn. Thanks for the insight. It was really a great learning. Though it was short, but it's a great learning. I have a yeah. I mean, it's a long way to go. It's a quite big subject, but as you said very clearly, that we have to start small and simple. Yeah. So my question is basically, if you're on a leadership position, probably if you're a project manager or a product manager, so I mean, what is your suggestion for them, right? Where they should start for the whole this DevSecOps thing, right? That's first part of my question, and the second part is like, what sort of training that you suggest, for people? I'm at a leadership position, and I'm very much interested into security and DevSecOps specifically. So where should I start from? Sorry for the lengthy question, though.
No, that's cool. So the first question. So I think it's important that those that are in the leadership, project management, understand what DevOps is. They need to understand what DevOps means, DevSecOps means. Right. And they need to allow their teams to develop their own way of delivering DevOps and DevSecOps. The danger is, of course, if they start to prescribe it from the top and they don't understand it, they may not be prescribing it in a good way. So I I mean, it's pushing this course and pushing my book, I guess, but I would certainly start by understanding what DevOps is and DevSecOps is. And I think then if they can understand, it is complex. It isn't an easy solution.
Right.
But yeah, I would suggest that leaders and managers and project managers actually understand what DevOps and DevSecOps really is first. And read books like the Devops Handbook and the Phoenix Project and Unicorn Project, and my book, and Team Topologies as well, by Manuel Payes and Matt Skelton. Brilliant book.
Right.
These books, I think, if you read those 5 books, I think you would have a really good understanding of what DevOps is. And then this leads me on to the second question. If you want to learn about security, there are loads of resources. OWASP, for me, is always going to be the best place to go to learn security. OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, they've released a top 10 every 3 or 4 years. They've just released the 2021 version.
2021, right. Yeah.
But they have a number of tools there that can help you as well. They have lots of different projects that are running there that can help you. That's a good starting point. You've also have the SANS Institute, SANS Institute.
Right.
They keep a record of what we call common weaknesses, and also keep a database of common vulnerabilities as well. But the other thing to do is just keep experimenting. Learn how to do hacking, and learn how to fix the issues that you come across when you do hacking. Just experiment. You know, there are a number of platforms out there that you can go to, and I would also recommend, you know, Devsec Ops Academy has got lots of really great material that you can use as well. Okay. We've got someone else has raised their hand. Neil Kayo, did you want to ask that question? So what we'll do as well, actually, just because I know lots of you have asked questions in the chat, we'll take this one as the last question verbally. But what I'll do is after this event, we'll capture those questions from the chat window, and we will respond to. I'll either do it on LinkedIn or we do it on the Devsec Ops Academy site. But we'll certainly make sure that we answer those questions for you.
All right.
And if we do miss those questions, you're also welcome to contact us directly or contact Glenn directly as well on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So Neil, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I think I want to continue a question from Sanjay just now. While the organization and also the leadership already aware about DevSecOps, and we want to embed and also adopt DevSecOps, my question is, who from the organization that we want to bring together to start this DevSecOps journey?
So whoever's interested. You're never gonna, as I said, you're never gonna have everybody aligned to it from day one. Start small. Start with the people that that want to work on it. Whether it's your team, whether it's a vertical, you know, and start to think about how this works. If you read the Phoenix Project and the Unicorn Project, it gives you a good example, really, of how you can apply DevOps. You know, like a team started to do their own thing to try and counter the problems that they were facing in the main project. And I think that's a good way of doing it. So they weren't trying to influence, you know, how everybody does it. They were trying to demonstrate this is a better way of doing it. So demonstrating and just doing DevOps and DevSecOps right from day one. And I think as people start to see what you're doing and seeing an improvement, because, you know, as the State of DevOps report shows, those that do DevOps and DevSecOps are high-performing organizations that produce great products for their customers that are secure, high-performing, of great quality. So once you start to use your knowledge and apply your knowledge in a DevOps and DevSecOps way in your small team, then it will grow. It will keep on growing. And if it doesn't grow, then your organization probably needs to think seriously about its commitment to its customers.
Oh, thank you.
So
All right.
yeah, So yeah, we'll answer the rest of the questions that are in chat, because I'm very conscious of the fact that we still have a couple of more slides to go. Inge still needs to wrap up. So I'm just going to stop sharing.
Yeah, thanks a lot for all those questions. There was actually one question that I think actually tied in with that last point you made, Glenn, that maybe you could just say like just a quick few words about, because we got a question that asked, how does DevSecOps actually increase speed and scalability and make an organization into this high performing organization that you just mentioned?
So DevOps and DevSecOps doesn't make an organization high performing. A high performing company is actually doing DevOps. That's it's like you, to coin another little phrase, if you say you want to use DevSecOps and DevOps to improve what you're doing, you're using your tail to wag your dog. What you really want is to direct your dog in the right direction, and the tail will come after. That's really what you want to do. So DevOps and DevSecOps isn't a process to make things better. It is just the process. It is just the cultural shift that you need to come up with to produce high performing products. And producing high performing products using the mechanisms and the methods that we just mentioned is actually going to help you. And don't get too wrapped up on what DevOps and DevSecOps is. Ultimately, as I said, you're looking to deliver high performing, quality and secure products to your customers. That's really all you're looking to do. And if you can do that, then you are probably doing DevOps and DevSecOps.
Right. All right. Thanks so much, Glenn. Another participant asked if you can share your LinkedIn URL if they want to contact you. Could you do that in the chat box?
I'll do that in the chat right now.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
I'm just going to go on mute.
All right, I have a few more slides to go because we just want to quickly run through the platform. We want to do a quick walkthrough of the platform so that, sorry, just 1 second. Here we go. So, please excuse those technical difficulties. All right. So as we mentioned before, Glenn has worked with us to create this Understanding DevSecOps course. So we want to make a quick disclaimer about this. This course is a bit more theory heavy than our normal courses because it is focused on the broader areas of DevOps and DevSecOps. So there is, in the preparation lab, it does have more theory than we would normally have. But we also do have a hands-on lab. So even if you're maybe from a more higher level technical background, this is a lab that is made for everyone to be able to do. So in this hands-on lab, we have a few exercises where you'll actually be applying the principles you've heard about today and that you'll also read more about in the preparation lab with 3 main exercises. So in the exercises, you're going to identify the most critical vulnerabilities with the SAST scan that you'll be running with HARSIC, which is an open source tool. And you will use the principles that you've learned to prioritize which are the vulnerabilities that you need to fix. And you will also, in this process, automate running your SAST scan and validating the fixes that you have implemented. But enough talking about the platform. I will do a quick walkthrough on the platform itself and show you how to navigate the most important parts of the lab. So if you're on our platform and you go to the courses section, you can search for Understanding DevSecOps, and we will give you access right after this. So you don't have access right now, but we will give you access after this kickoff. And when you go to the course, you will see that you have a preparation lab and you have a hands-on lab. So if you select the preparation lab, you will see that in here, we basically just discuss the most important concepts about DevOps and DevSecOps that you need to know and how security and DevOps are integrated together. And here you also have an overview of the hands-on lab and what exercises you'll be doing in it. And then at the end of the preparation lab, you have the option to take the quiz. And the quiz asks a number of questions that test your knowledge that you have acquired in the preparation lab. And you have 4 attempts. We can't give you any more attempts after this, so try to pass it from your first go. So then if you're ready, you can say, yes, we want to do the quiz, and you'll see that there are about 22 questions. And once you've done that, you can carry on to the hands-on lab. So all of this knowledge helps you to also prepare for the hands-on lab. So when you do the hands-on lab, it is a browser-based virtual lab that we create for you. So you only get 3 hours to do it. We've already spun it up so that to save time, because usually it takes about 5-10 minutes to be created. So before when you click that you want to start the lab, you will see that you get a warning that says, you have only 3 hours. Are you sure you want to create it now? Do make sure that you have the time to sit down and to do the lab in one go. So you can't go swimming or shopping or make dinner in between, unless you're really fast. So here you can see we've already created the lab. And in this lab, we have one virtual resource, which is a GitLab instance. So if I launch this, I've already logged in, but here you can see you get your credentials and you can log in with these credentials. And everything you need to complete the assignment are in these files. So here we see we have our application, which is a Node-Code application, and we will be creating our pipeline in our GitLab YAML file. So if we go back, so in the steps, you'll get a number of exercises that you need to complete. For example, here we can see we have the instructions for our exercises. And if you get stuck, we do have solutions, but we hide these solutions because we want you to try and complete the exercises by yourself. But if you're really stuck and you can't continue, then then you can use the solution. It will ask you if you're sure you want to show it. You can press show hint. So what we have done is we have 2 levels for our labs. We have the advanced level and we have the meteor levels. So once you use a certain amount of hints, your level drops automatically. So you get about 1 or 2 hints. Here it says 2 hints on the advanced level. And once you use more than this, then your level will drop. But it's the same lab in essence. It will just have a different level on your certificate. So here on the left-hand side, you can see that you have a number of check marks. Every time you complete the step successfully, then you'll get a check mark. And this is our automated check-in system. So if you don't complete an exercise correctly, then you will get this message. Check again. Our automated check-in indicates you may not have completed the step correctly. So sometimes with the check-in system, there might be a number of different ways to complete one assignment. And perhaps your way that you've completed the assignment is not known by the checker. Then don't fear or stress. It's more of a guardrails, it's a guiding, it's there to guide you that you're on the right path. So if you're, or on the wrong path. So if you're really sure that what you've done is correct, just carry on, even if you don't get the check mark, because you can submit your lab for manual review at the end, and we will manually review your lab. So as we mentioned before, we also have a survey. Please fill it in. We really appreciate your feedback. And you can just select this link and it'll open up into a short 10 questions survey. And then finally, at the end, once you've done completed all of your assignments and you're sure you're finished, you can just select check results. Also, if you're running out of time and you would like us to prolong your lab and you're not able to contact anyone, then you can also just submit your lab. And then that will save your lab, because if you don't submit your lab before the end of the 3 hours, then it will automatically be destroyed, and then your work will be destroyed with that. And we don't want that. So rather just submit it, and then we can always prolong it if you haven't completed it. And then if you have gotten all the tick marks, then it should just automatically pass your lab and you automatically get the certificate. Otherwise, you might need to wait a day or two. Right. I'll just go back here. I'm just going to quickly check if there are any more questions in the chat box. Okay, yes, so like as Dominic said, I can quickly go back. So you're able to access, because we did get a question, you're able to access from the courses page. So you just need to go on the left nav bar, you'll see here's courses, the third option. And then from here, you can just search understanding DevSecOps. But you will get also an email that says you have got access at the end. So worries about that. I'll just check the chat. All right. Okay. So that brings us to the end of our events. Well, the end of this kickoff session, not the end of our event. We'd like to say a big thank you to Glenn for joining us, and also a big thank you to you. And we are really looking forward to seeing how many people finish the course. And if you have any feedback for us or Glenn, we'd love to hear it. So thanks a lot again, Glenn.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. I really enjoyed tonight. Thank you very much.